Oh, what's up, everyone? Week 8 of Fantasy is in the books. Happy Halloween, everyone. Um, Today we're gonna go over the results from last week and also power rankings. So for the first game, we had that's Big D in Dallas versus Pickle Rick. So Big Mendoza versus Little Mendoza. Myself versus Christian. I was able to pick up the slim victory over Christian, 86.7 to 78.2. My team kind of struggled all over the place. The best player was Isaiah Crowell, the Crow. Caca. First time he scored a touchdown. So he had 15.8. And also Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. That's Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman 2.0. They did pretty good for me, combined almost 25 points together. And then I had a few people that struggled. Stephon Diggs with only 2.6. Carlos Hyde with only 4.7. And Kirk Cousins, who was kind of stable for me, only got 10 points. So he struggled a bit. On the other side, Christian's team, LaShawn McCoy. It looks like he's on a roll right now, 25.3 points. Chris Thompson, best player out there for Washington last week against Dallas, who they lost to. 7.4 points. Dak Prescott did struggle last week against the Redskins. He did only have 6.6, and Dez Bryant had 3.9. But overall, pretty close game. Thought Christian might pull it out at the end, but I was able to get by him after he had the Broncos defense playing against Kansas City. The win moves me to 5-3 and moves Christian to 2-6. All right. That's the first one. Second one. All right. Second game. We had VC smacks that duck bitch versus Super Bowl bound. Viet versus George. This is a good game. Came really close down to the end, too. George was able to pick up the slim victory, 99.5 to 95. George had some good games from DeAndre Hopkins. He's been going off with Deshaun Watson as his quarterback. He had 32.4 points. And his defense was really good, too. The Eagles' defense did really good. After that, Devin Funchess didn't do so good, 1.1. But now he's the number one receiver in the Panthers. Don't know why they traded Kelvin Benjamin, but I guess they were through with him. And then Jay Ajayi. George is going to have a few players that have got traded. Jay Ajayi did move on. He moved to the Eagles. Not sure how that would be. I know they're probably running back by committee, so we'll see what happens. But good luck, George. I'm feeling your pain. Like I said, you lost Ajayi, and I lost Zeke for 6 weeks on my team. Well, not my team, but my real team. So I feel your pain. Viet had a good players from Andy Dalton. Had 18 points for him. Then Melvin Gordon also had a really good game, 22.9. The Bills' defense also continues to do good, 14 points. Benjamin, 9.9. Wonder how he's going to do over there in the Bills. And then he had a few people that did struggle. T.Y. Hilton, only 1.5. Ryan Griffin from Houston, everyone caught a touchdown, but it seems just not him with 1 point. But it did come down to the end. And George was able to pick up the victory at the end. So it moves George to 5-3 and moves Viet to 5-3. So looks like the defending champs back, coming back up the rankings again. All right, and then we have Make Duck Buoy Great Again versus Beast Mode Helpers. We have Diego versus Ken Wabibi. Wabibi was able to pull out the win here. He had 117.9 points. Really good game by him to 103 by Diego. So it was pretty close too. Wabibi had really good games from Russell Wilson, 36 points, had a shooter, what was it called, a gun shooting game with Deshaun Watson. Each one would score one, and then the other one would score. So he had 36 points there. Marvin Jones had 13.8 points. A.J. Green had a pretty good game with 8.7. Ravens defense, 27 points. They continue to do good. That's the only thing they got good is their defense. Especially now that Flacco's out with that big old hit that he took from Kiko Alonso. And then he did have Austin Eckler for running back, I guess due to, bye weeks and things like that. YBB had to pull one up from the waiver wire and try to start him and see how he can do. As far as Diego had a good games from Ashlon Jeffrey, 16.2, Jimmy Graham, 15.9. C.J. Anderson looks like he bounced back and still confirmed his #1 status on the Broncos with 8.5. Tyrod Taylor, 16.1. And then Jordan Howard still continues to do good, 13.1 on that team. But fortunately was not enough to beat YBB. Diego moved to 4-4, and YBB up to 5-3. So really good job, good game there. Next we have Sick My Duck Anthony versus Yay Area DJ. Anthony had 141.4 points to DJ 79.1. Anthony had a bunch of good players. Jarrett McKinnon with 20.2 points. He went off Juju Smith-Schuster, 28.3 after he found his bike. I don't know if y'all saw that, but he had his bike. Zeke Elliott, of course, 26.4. Don't know what's going to happen with him. With him being suspended the next 6 weeks could definitely hurt Anthony, but looks like he's got some pretty good backups and stuff like that to move forward. DeAndre Washington filled in pretty good, 12.8 for Marshawn, who was suspended. And then Kareem Hunt with his lowest game of the year was 6.8. So a pretty good game overall for altogether. DJ, Kansas City's kicker Harrison Butt Kicker. That's what I like to call him, Butt Kicker. Had 21 points. Derek Carr had a pretty good game, even though they lost 13 points. And Rex Burkhead, now that he's back, he's taking carries away from that New England team that has a whole bunch of different players with 8.3. Nelson Aguilar had struggled, 2.6. He normally was doing pretty good. And Golden Tate, coming back from injury, only had 6.6. So this win moves Anthony up to 6-2, and then DJ down to 2-6. All right, 2 more games to go, guys. All right, we had Trump Wall Climbers, Zenith versus Duck Brown Banks. This was another close game. Banks was able to pull the victory up, 122.9 to 114.4. Banks had Deshaun Watson go off, really performing well, especially in fantasy. He had 37.7 points. Banks's Bengals defense had 14. Prater had 18 points. Tevin Coleman and Frank Gore basically had the same amount, 10.1 to 10.4. The only place that struggled a little bit was his wide receivers, who Jermaine Kearse with only 1.4. And then Taylor Gabriel with negative 0.3. I can tell Banks loving those Jets like he always does. Has 2 of them on there. Robbie Anderson did do good, though, with 17.5. He had a good game, so that's good. He got both of them because either one of them always goes off. Zenith's team also did really good. Kelsey, beast mode, he had 20.3 going off, dancing after he scores all the time. Love to see that. Lamar Miller, 19.3. Carson Wentz with 18.7. LeGarrette Blount had a pretty good game, 11.2. I don't know how that's going to work out now with the Jai there, but we'll see how it goes. Giovanni Bernard only with 0.5. He's getting everything taken away from him by Mixon. And Chiefs, 18 points. Did a really good job defense on Trevor Siemian, stealing a couple interceptions and fumble recovery from Jamal Charles to put up some 18 points. And then Gostkowski, New England's kicker, always getting money with 12 points. So that moves Banks into 3-5 with the win, and then Zenith to 5-3 with the loss. All right. Okay. Sorry, moved too much. Another pretty close game. This one put Viet Chokes on Big Fat Cox versus Charlotte Squadron, so Duck versus Ismail. Ismail was able to pick up the victory, 107.8 to 88.9. Ismail had really good game from Will Fuller. Like I said, all that dude does is catch touchdowns, 27.5. Every other catch is a touchdown for him. Adam Thielen, 15.8. He's also very, very stable, always getting a bunch of yards and a touchdown at least a game. Tom Brady, 18.2. always doing his thing. And Le'Veon Bell, 12.1 with all those carries he's getting. Jordan Reed did struggle. I believe he got hurt. As always against the Cowboys, always putting them out, that defense. I'm just messing with you guys. Steelers defense had 0 points. They struggled. And then also Brandon Cook struggled with 2.6 points. Duck had a few players that did good. Matt Ryan with 15.7. Alex Collins looks like he's the number one back there, 15.3. James White's did pretty good too with 8.7. Gronk always doing good, 11.7. Joe Nixon, 8.9, not too bad. The only persons that struggled was Pierre Garçon. I know that Duck had some bye-week players and stuff like that. And then the Lions defense with only 3 points. So the win moves Ismail to 3-5, and the loss drops Duck to 3-5. So okay. So these are the new standings now after the games. Anthony still sticks at number 1 at 6-2. Trump Wall Climbers 5-3. Beast Mode Helpers 5-3. Super Bowl Bound 5-3. That's really close in that division. Everybody's up at the top. Charlotte Squadron 3-5, and then Pickle Rick with 2-6. In the Brian Arlacker division, damn, that's Big D in Dallas with 5-3 at the top. VC smacks that Duck bitch at 5-3. Make Duck Bowie great again, 4-4. Viet chokes on Big Fat Cox is 3-5. Duck Browns is 3-5, and then Yay Area is 2-6. So those are the updated standings. And then as far as power rankings, this is week 8's power rankings. Sick My Duck remains at number 1. Second week at number 1. He's at 6-2, so no change there. Beast Mode Helpers 5-3. They were last week 6. They moved up 4 spots to number 2. They picked up the win. Also Trump Super Bowl Bound. George moved up 2 spots from number 5 last week to number 3 with the win, 5-3. Trump Wall Climbers 5-3. They were at 2 last week, so they moved down due to their loss. BC Smacks that Duck Bitch 5-3. Last week he was 3rd. He dropped down 2 spots because he lost 2. Make Duck Bowie great again is 4-4. Last week he was 5 and he dropped down a spot. Damn, that's Big D in Dallas 5-3. Last week he was 7th. Didn't really move him anywhere just because his point total was low. Charlotte Squadron jumped up 1 spot with his win, 3-5. Last week he was 9th. Viet chokes on Big Fat Cox, 3-5. Last week he was 8, dropped down 1 spot. Banks, Duck Browns, 3-5. Last week they were 12 and they jumped up 2 spots with their big victory. Pickle Rick, 2-6. Last week they were 10, so they're down another spot. And Yay Area, 2-6. Also, last week was 11th. He dropped down a spot to the last place to 12. All right, so those are the power rankings. Not too many changes. Just shuffling around. Let's see, we're about halfway through the season, I believe. And let's see, let me look at the score. Next week's matchups. So we have couple 5-3 teams going at it. Trump Wall Climbers, Zenith versus me. Then we have Beast Mode Helpers, Wabibi going up against Viet Tran, BC Smacks and Duck Bitch, who are both 5-3 as well. Then we have Sick My Duck, 6-2. Anthony going up against Make Duck Bowie Great Again at 4-4. Pickle Rick versus Yay Area, so Christian versus DJ, 2-6. Charlotte Squadron versus Duck Browns, Ismail versus Banks, both 3-5. And then Super Bowl Bound, 5-3. George versus Viet chokes on Big Fat Cox at 3-5. So should be an interesting week. All these trades going on. Ajayi moving around. Benjamin, I know that hurts a lot of the Panther fans. Sad about that. But hopefully Funches can step up. I'm hurting too. Zeke being out 6 weeks. So it's been a crazy week. Good luck, everyone. Hope everyone had a good Halloween. And good luck, everyone, this week.